You know what the worst part about betrayal is? It's not the act itself. It's the moment you realize you saw it coming all along, but chose to ignore every single red flag because you believed in something that was never really there. I stared at my reflection in the bathroom mirror, gripping the marble countertop so hard my knuckles had turned white. In 30 minutes, I'd be walking into what I thought was just another boring family reunion. I had no idea I was about to become the star of the most humiliating show of my life, or that I'd end up stealing the spotlight in a way that would leave everyone speechless. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me tell you how it all started, and more importantly, how it ended. My name is Celeste Morrison. Well, it was Celeste Harrison for 8 years, but we'll get to that part. And before you ask, yes, I'm about to tell you exactly how my marriage exploded in front of 43 family members during what was supposed to be a celebration of love and unity. Spoiler alert, there wasn't much of either by the time I was done. The morning of the Harrison family reunion started like any other Saturday. I woke up in our king-sized bed, the one with the Egyptian cotton sheets I'd picked out during our happier days, to find my husband Garrett already gone. No surprise there. He'd been pulling these disappearing acts for months, claiming he needed space to think and time to figure things out. What exactly he needed to figure out after 8 years of marriage was beyond me, but I'd stopped asking. You learn to stop asking questions when the answers keep breaking your heart. I found a note on the kitchen counter, scrawled in his familiar handwriting. Left early to help set up. See you there. G. Not love, G, or even see you there, babe. Just G, like I was some business associate he barely knew. I should have known right then that something was wrong. Garrett Harrison had never voluntarily helped set up for anything in his entire life. This was a man who considered putting his plate in the dishwasher a heroic act of domestic service. But there I was, making excuses for him again, telling myself he was finally stepping up and taking some responsibility for his family obligations. God, I was so naive. I spent the morning getting ready with the kind of care that comes from trying to convince yourself everything is fine. I chose my navy blue wrap dress, the one that made me feel confident and put together, and spent extra time on my makeup. Not because I was trying to impress anyone, but because armor comes in many forms, and sometimes it's just the right shade of lipstick and perfectly winged eyeliner. The Harrison family reunion was held at Garrett's uncle's estate in the suburbs, one of those sprawling properties with manicured lawns and a wraparound porch that screamed old money and older traditions. As I pulled into the circular driveway, I could see the familiar chaos of a family gathering already in full swing. Kids running around with sticky fingers, adults clustered in conversation groups, and the smell of barbecue smoke drifting from the backyard. I sat in my car for a moment, watching through the windshield as Garrett's relatives milled around. These people had been my family for 8 years. I'd celebrated holidays with them, mourned losses, shared countless meals and stories. The thought that this might be the last time I'd see them all together made my chest tighten. But again, I didn't know what was coming. I thought I was just dreading another afternoon of his cousin Brandon's political rants and Aunt Martha's passive-aggressive comments about why we didn't have children yet. I was so wrong. The first hour passed normally enough. I made the rounds, hugging relatives, admiring new bobbies, and listening to updates about college graduations and career changes. Garrett was everywhere and nowhere at once. I'd catch glimpses of him across the yard, but somehow we never ended up in the same conversation circle. It should have felt natural. We'd been drifting apart for months, moving through our shared spaces like polite strangers. But there was something different about his behavior that day. He kept looking at me with this expression I couldn't quite read, not guilt exactly, but something close to it. Something that made my stomach clench with unease. "You look beautiful today, sweetheart." Garrett's mother, Linda, appeared at my elbow with a glass of her famous sweet tea. She was a small woman with kind eyes and the sort of southern grace that made everyone feel instantly welcome. "That color is just lovely on you." "Thank you, Linda." I accepted the tea gratefully, needing something to do with my hands. "You've outdone yourself with the decorations. Everything looks amazing." She beamed with pride, gesturing toward the tables draped in white linens and adorned with mason jars full of wildflowers. "Well, you know how I love bringing the family together. These gatherings are so important, don't you think? Keeping everyone connected, maintaining those bonds that matter most." The irony of her words would hit me like a slap an hour later, but in that moment I just smiled and nodded. "Absolutely, family is everything." Linda squeezed my arm affectionately. "I'm so glad Garrett found you, dear. You've been such a blessing to our family." Past tense. She said you've been, not you are. Did she know something I didn't? Was there a hint of sadness in her voice, or was I reading too much into everything because of the growing knot of anxiety in my stomach? "Linda, there you are." Garrett's sister Rebecca bounded over, her 3-year-old daughter Emma in tow. "Mom, Dad wants to know if you're ready to do the family photo soon." "Oh yes, let me go gather everyone." Linda hurried off, leaving me with Rebecca and Emma. Rebecca had always been friendly, but distant with me. Not unfriendly, exactly, but never quite warm enough to feel like a real sister-in-law. She was studying me now with an expression that reminded me uncomfortably of Garrett's earlier looks. "So," she said, bouncing Emma on her hip, "how are things with you two? You seem quiet today." "We're fine," I said automatically, the same response I'd been giving everyone for months. "Just tired, you know how it is." "Mum." Rebecca's tone suggested she absolutely did not believe me, but she didn't push. Instead, she handed Emma a juice box and changed the subject to safer territory. The weather, the food, anything but the obvious tension that apparently everyone could see except me. Or maybe I could see it. Maybe I'd been seeing it for months and just refusing to acknowledge what it meant. The call for the family photo came just after 2 o'clock. Everyone gathered on the front porch, organizing themselves into the traditional formation. Older generation in chairs in front, middle generation standing behind them, kids scattered around wherever they could fit. Garrett and I found ourselves positioned near the right edge of the group, his hand settling on my lower back with the kind of casual intimacy that had once felt natural, but now seemed performative. "Everyone ready?" called Uncle Robert, wielding his massive camera like he was documenting a historical event. "On 3, 1, 2. "Actually, wait a minute." Garrett's voice cut through the air, stopping Robert mid-countdown. "Before we take this picture, I have something I need to say." A hush fell over the group. 43 pairs of eyes turned toward us, expectant smiles still painted on their faces from the interrupted photo session. I felt Garrett's hand fall away from my back, and suddenly the space between us felt like a chasm. "I wanted all of you to hear this from me personally," Garrett continued, his voice carrying across the suddenly silent porch. "Because family is important, and you all deserve to know what's happening in our lives." My heart started pounding. This wasn't happening. Whatever this was, it wasn't happening. Not here, not like this, not in front of everyone we both loved and respected. "Celeste and I have decided to get a divorce." The words hit the air like a physical blow. I heard Aunt Martha gasp. I saw Uncle Robert's camera dip toward the ground. I watched the color drain from Linda's face as her hand flew to her chest. But mostly, I felt my entire world tilt sideways. "We've been having problems for a while now," Garrett continued, as if he was delivering a weather report instead of destroying our life together in front of his entire family. "We've tried to work things out, but sometimes things just don't work out the way we hope they will." "We've tried to work things out? When? When had we tried?" I thought of all the nights I'd lain awake wanting to talk, wanting to fight for us, while he rolled over and pretended to sleep. I thought of all the times I'd suggested counseling, only to be met with dismissive shrugs and changes of subject. "It's for the best," he said, still not looking at me. "We both know it's time to move on." Both, I wanted to scream. Both of us know. I didn't know anything except that my husband had just announced our divorce to his family before bothering to discuss it with me. The silence stretched out, heavy and uncomfortable. I could feel everyone staring at me, waiting for me to say something, to confirm or deny, to play my part in this horrific little drama Garrett had scripted without my knowledge. And that's when it hit me, the the full, devastating realization of what was happening. This wasn't an announcement. This was a performance. Garrett hadn't just decided to tell his family about our divorce. He'd orchestrated this moment specifically to humiliate me, to paint himself as the reasonable one, the one who'd tried to make things work while positioning me as, what? The difficult wife who couldn't make her marriage work, the failure who couldn't keep her man happy. The rage that bubbled up in my chest. I paused, watching his Adam's apple bob as he swallowed hard. Embarrassing, I continued, is discovering that your husband has been badmouthing you to his mistress, telling her all the ways you've disappointed him, all the reasons he's justified in betraying you. Embarrassing is finding out that he's been promising to leave you for months, but was too much of a coward to actually do it until he could find a way to make it look like your fault. The silence on the porch was deafening. Someone's phone was buzzing repeatedly, but no one moved to answer it. Even the children had gone quiet, sensing the gravity of the adult drama playing out before them. But you know what's not embarrassing? I asked, my voice beginning to rise again. What's not embarrassing is standing up for yourself when someone tries to humiliate you. What's not embarrassing is refusing to let someone rewrite history to make themselves look better. I turned back to the family, these people who had welcomed me, loved me, treated me like one of their own for 8 years. I want you all to know that I fought for this marriage, I said, my voice clear and strong. I fought for it when Garrett stopped coming to bed at the same time as me. I fought for it when he stopped talking to me about anything more meaningful than the weather. I fought for it when he started finding excuses to work late every night and go out with friends every weekend. I saw nods of understanding from several family members. They'd seen the signs too, even if they hadn't known what they were looking at. I suggested counseling. He said we didn't need it. I suggested we take a vacation together, reconnect. He said he was too busy with work. I suggested we have regular date nights, just the two of us. He said I was being clingy. My voice cracked slightly on that last word, the pain of those rejections still fresh even through my anger. So when Garrett stands there and tells you that we both know it's time to move on, what he really means is that he decided it was time to move on months ago, and he's been setting up his exit strategy ever since. I turned back to Garrett, who was now staring at the ground, his face flushed with shame and anger. Did you really think I didn't know? I asked him quietly. Did you really think I was that oblivious, that stupid? His head snapped up, and for a moment I saw something raw and desperate in his eyes. You want to know the truth, he said, his voice loud enough for everyone to hear. The truth is that you're exhausting, Celeste. You're needy and demanding, and you want to talk about everything all the time. You want to analyze every little thing until there's nothing left of it. The cruelty in his voice was like a physical blow, but I didn't flinch. I'd been preparing for this moment without even knowing it, building up my defenses for months as I watched our marriage crumble. You want to know what's exhausting? I shot back. What's exhausting is being married to someone who treats you like a roommate he barely tolerates. What's exhausting is trying to connect with someone who's already checked out of the relationship but is too cowardly to admit it. At least I'm admitting it now, he said. No, I said, shaking my head. You're not admitting anything. You're trying to control the narrative. You thought if you announced our divorce here in front of everyone, you could frame it as a mutual decision. You could walk away looking like the reasonable one while I looked like the bitter ex-wife who couldn't handle the truth. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. But you made one crucial mistake, Garrett. You assumed I'd play along. I reached into my purse and pulled out my phone, holding it up so everyone could see the screen. You see, when someone calls your house looking for your husband and then hangs up when you answer, you tend to remember the number, I said conversationally. And when you call that number back and get a voicemail message that says, "Hi, you've reached Amber, leave me a message and I'll call you back," you tend to remember that name. Garrett's face had gone completely white. And when you Google that name along with the name of your husband's dental practice, you find some very interesting social media profiles, I continued, my finger swiping across the screen. Profiles with pictures of romantic dinners and weekend getaways and hotel rooms that look remarkably similar to the charges on your credit card statement. I held up the phone, showing a picture of Garrett and a blonde woman I'd never met, clinking wine glasses at what was clearly an expensive restaurant. "This was taken 3 weeks ago," I announced to the assembled family. According to the timestamp, it was the same night Garrett told me he had to work late on a big project. The gasps and murmurs from the family were getting louder now, but I wasn't done. "And this one," I said, swiping to the next photo, "was taken last weekend when he told me he was going to a work conference in the city." The second photo showed Garrett and Amber at what was clearly a romantic bed and breakfast, the kind of place couples go for anniversary celebrations, not dental hygiene conferences. "So you see, everyone," I said, turning to address the family one final time. "When Garrett says we've been having problems and it's time to move on, what he really means is that he's been having an affair and he thought he could manipulate all of you into supporting his decision by making it seem mutual and inevitable." I put my phone back in my purse and looked directly at Garrett, who was now standing there like a deer caught in headlights. "But here's the thing about the truth," I said, my voice steady and clear. "It has a way of coming out no matter how hard you try to bury it." I turned to Linda, whose face was a mask of disappointment and hurt. "Linda, I want you to know that I never wanted it to come to this," I said gently. "I love this family. You've all been wonderful to me, and I'm going to miss you more than you know. But I couldn't let Garrett rewrite our story to make himself look better." Linda nodded slowly, tears gathering in her eyes. "Oh, honey," she whispered, "I'm so sorry." I hugged her briefly, breathing in the familiar scent of her perfume one last time. "Don't be sorry," I said. "Just remember that there are always two sides to every story, and the person telling it first isn't always telling it honestly." I stepped back and looked around at the assembled family one final time. These people had been my people for 8 years. I'd celebrated holidays with them, mourned losses, shared countless meals and stories. Walking away from them was almost as painful as walking away from Garrett. "I want you all to know that I never wanted our marriage to end," I said, my voice carrying across the silent porch. "I would have done anything to save it, but you can't save something when only one person is willing to fight for it." I shouldered my purse and smoothed down my dress, composing myself for the walk to my car. "Celeste, wait," Rebecca called out. "You don't have to leave. He's the one who—" "No," I said firmly but kindly. "This is his family. These are his people. I was just borrowing them for a while, and now it's time to give them back." I looked at Garrett one last time. He was still standing there, looking shell-shocked and humiliated, exactly the way he'd planned for me to look. "For what it's worth," I said to him, my voice quiet enough that only he and the people closest to us could hear, "I really did love you. I loved the man I thought you were anyway. I'm sorry that man never actually existed." The walk from the porch to my car felt like it took forever and no time at all. I could feel every eye on me, could sense the whispered conversations starting up in my wake, but I kept my head high and my steps steady. I was almost to my car when I heard footsteps behind me. "Celeste, wait." I turned to find Rebecca hurrying after me, her face flushed with emotion. "I just wanted to say," she began, slightly out of breath, "that what you did back there, that took incredible courage. And I want you to know that not everyone in this family is going to side with Garrett just because he's blood." I felt tears prick at my eyes for the first time since this whole nightmare began. "Thank you," I said simply. "That means more than you know." She hugged me impulsively, fiercely, like she was trying to apologize for her brother's behavior through sheer force of affection. "You're going to be okay," she whispered in my ear. "You're stronger than he ever deserved." When she pulled back, there were tears in her eyes too. "Take care of yourself," I said, because there wasn't really anything else to say. I got in my car and started the engine, allowing myself one last look at the house where I'd spent so many holidays, so many family celebrations. Garrett was still on the porch, surrounded by his relatives, but I couldn't tell from this distance whether they were offering comfort or confrontation. Not that it mattered anymore. I drove home in a daze, my mind spinning between fury and heartbreak and a strange sense of liberation. In the span of 30 minutes, I'd lost my marriage, my extended family, and the future I'd been planning for 8 years. But I'd also found my voice, my strength, and my self-respect. My phone started buzzing before I even made it home. Text messages from various Harrison family members, expressing everything from shock to support to outright condemnation of Garrett's behavior. I scrolled through them at a red light, feeling a mix of gratitude and sadness. Linda had sent the longest message. "Celeste, I am so sorry for what happened today. I had no idea what Garrett was planning, and I'm appalled by his behavior. You have always been a daughter to me, and that doesn't change just because my son is an idiot. Please know that you."